Welcome to Happily Ever Aftermath, the podcast that explores the movies that influenced how we view love and romantic relationships. Yes, there will be spoilers. I'm your host, Diana Rojek Skonnord. A woman without a husband is not a problem to be solved. We're talking about Persuasion from 2022, and Ryan is here with me, so I don't have to talk to myself.
Hi again.
Hello, how are you?
I am good. We're still doing recent releases.
Yeah, and
they just keep making Austen adaptations.
So thank you for letting me just kind of like bury myself more and more into this cozy cocoon of period pieces with happy endings.
Yeah. I mean, if the shoe fits, like I said, they are recent, so
I suppose I'm just like appreciating this kind of low stakes for me because I didn't live back then. I don't know what that means.
Right. And it's not like some emotionally loaded movie from your teenage years.
Well, I mean, that is the whole point of the podcast, but I talked about a lot of them already, and you won't let me dig into, all of your emotionally loaded movies. I don't think they had women in them, so.
That is so unfair. We've talked about this. No, like most of my...
Okay, I'm going to go with me and say The Usual Suspects.
And that's just a good movie.
Okay.
I thought we agreed that my real problem was that most of my like formative romance stories were like longer forms, the TV series, books, video games in some cases, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm sure that was mentioned out loud, but the point is, recent release woo?
Recent release woo.
Okay. Why are you wooing?
Because we're topical. People love that.
Oh yeah, but they didn't love this.
So you told me, this movie kind of went under my radar for a while until you told me that you wanted to.
I'm laughing right now. This movie went under my radar, honey. It came out 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, and I haven't heard about it in all of 2 weeks. So until you started talking about it.
Okay, so
yes, give us the backstory on the reception.
Well, hold on 1 second. So for clarity, for Persuasion, there are many versions of this. This is the most recent Netflix release. It came out on July 15th, 2022. And let's see here. Where is the IMDb? Thank you. 8 years after Anne Elliot was persuaded not to marry a dashing man of humble origins, they meet again. Will she seize her second chance at true love? I said, persuade, take a shot. Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay, you didn't take a shot.
Oh, sorry. I thought the audience was supposed to.
Well, you also didn't respond, so I was just continuing to speak.
I have no beverage here except soda. It's going to make me burp into the microphone.
Classy. The movie stars Dakota Johnson, Cosmo Jarvis, Henry Golding, Richard E. Grant, Nikki Amuka-Bird, McKenna-Bruce, Ben Bailey. I will keep saying names unless you chime in at any point in time.
Yeah, I was going to say I think these are only listed in order of appearance, so you have to like make some judgment calls on who the more prominent cast members are.
Oh, see, you're on IMDb. I'm on Wikipedia. So.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Well, someone put some thought into that. Go ahead.
Well, the thing is that like I don't know. I mean, I could start saying Anne Elliot and Captain Wentworth and William Elliot and Walter Elliot and Elizabeth Elliot.
I could barely keep this character straight while I was watching it. So.
Okay, so
there's a lot of Elliots for one thing.
Okay, so. Anyone who has listened to 3 episodes of this podcast knows that I am a fan of Pride and Prejudice. Mm-hmm. I knew the plot of Persuasion. I didn't know too much about Persuasion. In fact, the most I knew about Persuasion was in the movie Austenland. Apparently one of the things they were referencing was Persuasion, and I didn't know that until years later. I'm like, oh, Persuasion, that's what they were doing with this one character.
I was going to ask, when you say things they were referencing, you mean like the characters in the movie who are big Jane Austen fans talked about it, or like structurally the entire movie was kind of like imitating the plot? Because I saw some similarities, but... So
in Austenland, these people go to a place where they get to reenact their Austen fantasies.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like... like a fantasy camp kind of thing, right?
Right, exactly. But there was the more lively blonde in there who was just like, the captain has come back. We were engaged. Oh. And I broke it off because my family
This is one of the other guests.
This is one of the other guests. Just pulls the main character in
just
there,
role
like
playing the. Okay.
And then you later see her blackmailing her so she can spend time with them, and then you see them making out later on.
Right.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
movie was strange.
No shit.
They had like a lower like ticket tier for the people who wanted to roleplay as the poor people, I guess. And
It's the copper package, my friend,
Right.
and also she didn't know that they were tiers.
that's the plot. Okay.
So that's Austen Land.
That's in our back catalog, right?
That's
You
in the
did
back
an episode
catalog.
about that already. Okay.
Right,
I did
right.
not appear on that one.
You
but-
can hear me blush throughout all of it because I'm just like, this movie is, I'm sorry. And I believe Polina forgave me the whole way through because she said it was a romp.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't know what that means.
So, like, if Austen Land were real, you would at least consider spending a weekend there, wouldn't you?
Too expensive.
Okay, but like, would you
Too
get
far.
the? You wouldn't get like the bedpan package or whatever.
Funny thing is that when I first heard that, I thought she referred to as the pauper package.
I'm
like, wow. No.
little on the nose.
Yeah, copper. Which, you know,
you're just like
you've been to casinos. You know that you need to start at bronze or higher.
I was gonna say, are you there as like a poor person or like a poor rich person? The Bennett package.
So Persuasion.
Right. Yes. Okay. Not Pride and Prejudice. It's just full of a bunch of people who rush to judgment. But still, totally different thing.
And decided to not pay attention to the potential of a man with, I don't know. Okay. Okay. Here's the deal. I saw this come out. It was on Netflix. Cool. I'm gonna watch this. I remember watching the trailer and going, I don't really think that this is gonna be good for me. And then a bunch of people said, "Oh my god, that trailer!" Rah, 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 rah. I'm like, okay, I should see this movie then if people are having this kind of reaction to it.
No, when you say the trailer, that's like they liked the trailer or they were excited for it,
no.
or people were upset about it.
People were not happy.
So yes, tell
This
us.
is not what the story is. This is just like some sort of just like crappy winking at the camera thing.
Well, I mean, yes, the protagonist does narrate directly to the camera, but that's more of a convention than like winking at the camera. This
is not what Jane Austen wanted. I need to be off Twitter.
So you described the movie style as modern when we were talking about it before I saw it.
So okay, here for a little bit of backstory. I wanted to see this, and it's very rarely that a movie comes along that I want to watch it with my mother, and I would consider myself to be safe in that she's not going to pick up and start fast forwarding any sexy parts. True story. She was watching a telenovela, and some things started to happen, and she started to fast forward, and I'm like, Mom, what about the plot? I'll figure it out.
The Regency. No one can touch anyone or take any clothes off.
Thumbs up.
Unless you're watching Bridgerton.
Thumbs up. Oh, weird thing is, though, my mom does watch Bridgerton. But I was not going to watch Bridgerton with my mother.
Yeah, you'd have to fast forward a lot.
Right. So what's great is that I figured I'd be in safe ground watching this with my mom. So we made a date to watch it when it came out, and then a lot of stuff happened, and I had to keep postponing. But by then, Twitter blew up.
Is Bridgerton technically Edwardian, not Regency? I brought that up last week
Wrong
and I never Googled it.
focus.
Sorry. You make me watch a lot of these. Sorry, Twitter was blowing up about this movie.
Well, my Twitter feed, it doesn't really make a big difference.
Yeah.
So I watched this with my mom. I enjoyed it. We watched it with the subtitles because it was just easier. And watching it with the subtitles made it a lot easier to figure out who was who. Yeah.
You get the visual plus the auditory intake of the names,
and the in-law relations of just like,
yes.
Why are we going to this house? Who is this person? Oh, she and he just called them mom, so that means all right, in-laws, some more. Got it. Cool, makes sense.
Right, and yeah, just like weaving the connections through like not just these families but also like the naval friends, and it's like okay,
naval relations.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so like Anne is reconnecting to
Wentworth.
Yeah, it was. I had to look at my cheat sheet.
It was
Cosmo
funny
to Wentworth. Okay.
It's so funny because you asked me, does this guy have a first name? Frederick.
Oh yeah, right. Well, I mean, yeah. Well, it had been like 40 minutes of screen time since anyone called him anything except Captain Wentworth. So anyway. So Anne is reconnecting to Captain Wentworth, her ex boyfriend, I guess, like almost fiance, but they broke it off.
In the movie, I suppose so, but I guess in the book they were engaged and she broke it off.
I see. So yeah, so her father is renting his town estate out to an admiral whose wife is his Wentworth's sister. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's just a lot more stuff like that all through the movie if you want to. Yeah, because like Anne is really close with a lot of her in-laws, which is to say her sister Mary's husband's family.
Yeah. Which it's so funny because it's just like, oh, my sister's-in-law. And I'm like, not where we are from.
Right.
And that gets confusing.
Yeah.
So, but it is helpful.
She's like closer with her sister's husband's sisters than her actual sisters. So, yeah.
That happens sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just a matter of convenience.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's a matter of personality.
Yeah. I mean, friendships, basically.
Right.
But, yeah.
Or sometimes it's a manner of just like, oh my God, my sister. I know her. Am I right?
Mary was pretty nuts. Yeah.
Right. And if I may point out the scene where Anne is a little bit drunk and just blurted out, Charles wanted to marry me first.
It's like,
but that's not the funny part. So much.
I better make small talk.
But not so much that. So much as just like Mary's just like, yeah, and Charles, yeah, and Charles's mom, yeah.
It's one way to diffuse the awkwardness as fast as possible.
If anything, it was just like, there's no awkwardness here. It was true.
It's true. She is more attractive.
I don't think just the more attractive. It's just like, I think we all know that Mary.
Better personality.
Mary's Mary,
Yeah.
But what did you think of this movie?
I enjoyed it as I think we talked about previously. My personal kind of taste in movies is I have kind of a low bar for like, that was okay. It takes a lot to like actively put me off a movie. So like here I am. I'm not saying like it was great. I'm not saying I loved it, but it's like, oh hey, we're gonna sit down and watch Jane Austen adaptation. Oh cool. And the stuff that kind of stood out for me is I believe a lot of what some people hated about this movie, so no accounting for taste, and I'll thank you to fill in the details on that later. But yeah, what really made this movie kind of distinctive was I did find it a bit modern in cinematography. It felt a bit in the small aesthetic details, it just kind of felt like a movie that was taking place in the present, and it just happened to, be in this quasi-historic setting. And as we already mentioned, the main character narrates to the camera, which I thought was fine. I think it's a pretty good creative choice, considering that so much of this genre of story has to do with like the character's feelings, and there's various ways to kind of translate that from the page to the screen. And soliloquy I think is a perfectly reasonable choice for that. I don't think it's like the best choice for every movie, but for this one I think the soliloquies worked, and they had a lot of fun with it, where she was like free to just kind of like give a knowing glance at the camera right in the middle of another scene. I thought it was pretty charming. I can see how that would rub certain people the wrong way, but I don't think it really offended my taste at all. And I guess the other thing that I saw a little bit of the backlash against this when I was just reading up on this movie after I saw it, but the language, like the choices of words were kind of anachronistic. Like the characters were
they were speaking modernly.
Largely, yeah. I mean, it was kind of in between. It was a little bit awkward. Like they were doing authentic English accents, and in the broad strokes, the way they spoke seemed like period appropriate, especially with like the level of formality and everything. But there were a lot of like modern idioms that crept in, and not even in especially subtle ways.
Oh, you mean how she pulled out her box and said he made her a playlist?
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that. Was that like I was like, am I not familiar with that term, or is that just a joke, or was it like a list of plays, or
it was sheet music. It was
a list of sheet music, yeah. And then so that was like, and that was a bit earlier in the movie too, so I was like just confused. Like, is that supposed to be funny? Is there some kind of like period jargon that I'm just not aware of here?
Okay, how about when Mary was talking about self-care?
Right.
And about practicing gratitude.
Yes, and Yeah, and yeah, just like some less beat over the head details, or like, referring to Wentworth as an X, and talking about like, oh, you're a 10, and if you're a 6 in London, you're a 10 in Bath or something. I'm like, I'm almost positive they didn't talk like that back then. So it was.
I think for me it was more along the lines of just like, did I hear that correctly? Huh. All right. Oh, the story continues.
Okay, so honestly, I think that's fine, because like, number one,
I was amused by it.
It's an adaptational choice. Anytime you're trying to like, bridge between like a historical setting and modern audiences, there's a broad variety of, like I think I was joking, like we're lucky this whole thing wasn't set at like in Venice Beach or Mad Max World or.
I mean, one of the comparisons I saw brought up is like Romeo and Juliet, William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet.
The Baz Luhrmann movie?
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
What I was alluding to wasn't clear.
Sorry. I was actually thinking of some other... Well, there's Emma is Clueless, that kind of thing.
Yeah, of course. It's a whole gradient.
Well, no, this is what people were angry about. It's either you do it modern, you go all into it,
or you kind of straddling,
or you go period, or you go all into it, or you do Baz Luhrmann and you do the period language and not.
Here's why I don't agree with that. I think this movie is.
I gave you 3 options, so which one don't you agree with?
I don't agree that you have to do any of those things. I think that this movie was fine creatively, in part because I think people are being unfair because they're expecting the characters to speak period appropriate English, because it takes place in a country where the language is English. Now, like, imagine if this was based on a book that was originally set in France or Italy. Or ancient Rome or any, or the Far East or anywhere else, like, are they going to make the whole movie with subtitles? Are they going to have the character speaking English? And if they are having the character speak English, how much modernity is there going to be in that English? It's not like, yeah.
Ooh, do Hunt for Red October, where they go into their mounts and
Exactly.
they come back out.
Zoom
and
through
and then doing a terrible accent.
Exactly. Yeah, but I mean, like, when someone watches, I don't know, pick your favorite
K-19 The Widowmaker.
I was going to say like ancient Rome or ancient Greece movie.
I was going to go with English when they're just doing a really bad Russian accent.
Well, yeah, but like, no one complains if like, oh, well, they're speaking English, but that's not like old-timey English, because the whole thing is, yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm raising my hand right now. Finish your thought, and then I will ask my question.
Just my thought was like, I think that's called the translation convention. You're just supposed to assume that like, hey, they're performing the dialogue in modern English so you can watch the movie, but you're supposed to assume that that's not like, that's more of like a loose abstract representation of what they're actually seeing in their native language. And if that can, why doesn't this movie get a pass on that? Why can't we just assume that it's, kind of an abstract representation of what they would have been saying in slightly different words because it was 200 years ago?
I'm going to set the bar for people so they can have a little bit more insight into you.
Okay.
You did watch that Tom Cruise movie, Valkyrie, correct?
I have not seen that one. I've been meaning to.
Dang it.
Did you see that?
I swear that you had watched it. You're just like, I don't see what everyone was all upset about. Because that was the whole thing, right? It took place and they all speak English, even though it's supposed to take place in Germany.
But, I mean, there's lots of movies like that.
Oh,
has anyone seen Schindler's List? That was in English.
I haven't seen Schindler's List.
Well, all the characters are German and they speak English.
The point is that everyone was complaining so hard because it was just Tom Cruise coming out like Tom Cruise, and I'm just like, hello, Fuhrer, or something to that effect.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, there's such double standards, because like, is it... Well, okay, were they complaining that he wasn't speaking English with a German accent?
Possibly.
Or should he have had a British accent? Because I think that's what, I mean...
I don't know.
Yeah, it's a whole... Because, like...
So what you're saying is Christoph Waltz needs to be in every movie. And he gets to flip his languages.
I mean, he would also have to play every character is the problem, which...
Ooh, that would be
that
dumb.
Might be good.
No, it would be dumb.
I mean, I'm just trying to think of an example. Okay, like, even drawing only from movies I've reviewed on this podcast, let's just say Enemy at the Gates, where, like...
Oh, yeah.
Every Russian character is speaking British accented English. And it's like, why do they all have to be British? Are any of them supposed to sound Russian? There's like one German character played by Ed Harris, and he's speaking American accented English. So we just pretend when someone's speaking with an American accent, that's German, or... I think he speaks in Russian to in some, at least he's talking to Russian characters. You would assume he was talking in Russian. I don't know.
You're right. We should watch The Mummy again.
The point is, if you're going into movies like this, looking to, I respect a good overthinking, but you'd better be able to back it up. If you're going to overthink it in these nitpicky ways where you're just finding something to complain about, like focus your energy on finding things to like I did.
And as someone who likes to complain a lot about movies,
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed this.
Good, yeah.
I'm sure if I watch it over and over again, I'll start seeing the holes in it. And considering that I've already seen it twice, I still enjoyed it.
So what did you like about it?
For some reason, I've been having a hard time watching and reading contemporary romances because it's just too easy to think like, that would never happen. So in something where I'm just kind of unfamiliar with how things are in reality, it's very easy for me to go like, okay, that's nice. I'm focusing on the progression of this, not like, that wouldn't happen. They wouldn't wear that. Oh my God, he touched her in public. They have to get married now.
Did I make that quip at the very beginning of the movie when like their old romance when they like almost got engaged and they're like kissing each other, and I'm like, does that mean they have to get married now?
Well, the funny thing is though, because I've seen it twice now, that scene, she's speaking at it as a, not reminiscing, but just kind of like thinking back and being very sad about it. But it's actually the same scene at the beginning as it is at the end. They're in.
I was wondering.
Yeah.
Was just I couldn't tell if it was like the same or just very similar looking, like visual symmetry.
I believe they're the same. Again, seen it twice, but I've only seen it twice, so I could be wrong. But for me, I choose to take
so
it.
It was like a secret flash forward, and she was narrating back from it was actually their happily ever after all along, and we didn't know it.
I think that was really sweet, actually.
Yeah,
it's kind of nice. I mean, I can see why a lot of people would be upset about that's not how the story goes. You actually mentioned when Henry Golding's character is introduced, Mr. William Elliot, I think?
Mr. Yeah, hot cousin Elliot.
The heir
and
Elliot.
Everyone's all excited about how he's he's probably gonna marry
Elizabeth the oldest. Well, that's what they're assuming.
Or either one. Yeah. Either of his two first cousins, they wanted him to marry. So
I don't. Well, if you
someone did, I don't know.
Well, okay. So he's flirting a lot with Anne, and he's
Flirts
there
with two cousins. Sorry, just when we were watching, I would not shut up about the whole marry his cousin thing, which I know was like more accepted back then. But
well, let's be perfectly honest.
I have to gripe about something.
Well, no. See, you and I, we're of the same mind, so of course we put it in this way. Yes, and marry our cousins.
Right? Yes. Shelbyville jokes all throughout.
Yes. Well, you did. I just realized the Simpsons are forever in our soul. So when the cousin is introduced into the story and it becomes very, I don't know, it's hard to tell. Okay. So backing up a bit, I read the plot synopsis of Persuasion, the book, on Wikipedia after watching the movie. And so apparently there's this whole thing. Apparently he's very ambiguous in this movie. His intentions, even though he states outright, I will do anything to keep my title and inheriting all of this.
So a quick recap. So Anne's father, Sir Walter Elliot, the Baronet, has no male heirs, and Mr. Elliot, the hot cousin, is in line to inherit the title
and all the property.
Yeah, and apparently Sir Elliot has kind of been flirting with this widow, and if they were to get married and have a son, then that would bump him out of the line of inheritance. So.
Yeah, he'd have a new heir.
Yeah, and okay, so he wound up kind of like romancing and marrying that widow himself, and through that he was also kind of putting the moves on Anne, right?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, so can you explain what was his plan there? Like what?
That I could not figure out. Honestly, looking back on it, I think his plan was, oh, I heard word that there's somebody hanging around my uncle, and I gotta make sure that ooh, she's pretty.
Yeah, so not
I'm gonna flirt with her and see where I can go with this. Oh, eyes on the prize, man, eyes on the prize. Okay, I can't, but she's really pretty.
because I thought it had something to do, and this was mentioned directly in the movie, that like Anne's father kind of liked the idea of, you know, his nephew marrying one of his daughters, because then like his, you know, then like their kid would still be in his direct descendancy. So
Right, and here's the thing about that though. I don't think it was really assumed that it was going to be the oldest.
right.
Elizabeth, who was just kind of like right on par with her father, with just like, we are amazing, we are perfect people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he likes Anne enough to even consider that she could do anything to that effect.
Right.
A la like Mrs. Bennet and Elizabeth. Like, why would anyone be interested in Elizabeth Bennet when they could have Jane the beauty? You know what? And it doesn't help that they're all Elizabeths right now in my trying to make my point. So I might be projecting on there, but I don't think he wanted any daughter. I think he was just like, yeah, Elizabeth, it'll stay in the line, and it would probably come as a true shock to him if like there was any interest in Anne. So Anne probably didn't even bother. The hot cousin nephew didn't bother, and I think based off of just his dialogue, he's just like, oh well, you know, I'm trying, you know, because I think he likes that she is not buying any of his bullshit.
Right.
He's so charming, he's so rich, and she's like, yeah, I'm your cousin, what's up?
That I mean, I don't want to misuse the word relationship here, but like because they didn't, you know, they never really had a romance. They flirted,
and he asked a
little harmless flirting between cousins. But I was going to say that dynamic I did enjoy for much the reasons you were describing. They were like,
he asked her to marry him.
A little harmless flirting and a proposal between cousins.
But again, I think he was just throwing that out there because he's just like, I kind of like this. Will you marry me?
Yeah, I know. This story had a lot going on. I mean, that's another way that it doesn't really... I don't know. I feel like a more modern novel would have been a bit more like economical with all the loose ends. This just kind of has like a lot of little twists and turns along the way, which is very interesting. I thought the movie did a pretty good job kind of tying it together and not making it feel too bewildering.
But if I could make a point that Lady Russell made...
Mm-hmm.
And Anne as well, it's just like marriage is a transaction. This is like a woman's only mechanism to move on with her life, be it out of her family and into her own, or, you know, doing anything right now. So it's really important, but at the same time, it's like these people are all rich and all they have to do is just like go travel. Visit family,
which
run around an area and play with children.
Which incidentally goes directly back to the adaptation thing, which must be like, if you're the person like trying to make one of these movies, it must be so frustrating that like they, you know, the stories bear retelling so much because they're these like kind of timeless human stories, and yet the social context where like women are completely obsessed with whom they're going to marry because they have to be, and you know that's all kind of, you know, like if you transplant it to any other setting, like even another historical setting, but especially a modern one, immediately you're going to be like, oh, why do these women have such one-track minds about romance? Like, don't they have anything else going on in their lives right now? You know, so
yes.
So yeah, I mean, and yeah, it's so
you
that's
now...
I mean that's just my side note about like. If you're gonna make an adaptation where it's modern, why not like put it in modern time? Well, yeah, it's like a lot of the kind of like underpinnings of the characters fall apart if you do that. So, I just think that's interesting.
So you now have explained Diana's criticism for hating Pride and Prejudice in high school.
Right.
The fuck, men aren't everything. I'm Darcy, I rescued you.
It must be in want of a wife.
I realized that we've barely said anything about Wentworth, our hero of the story.
Is it me, or did you not actually get a lot of screen time?
Well, that happens a lot.
Yes.
And that's okay.
That's true.
I thought he was nice.
He was nice.
I think the actor did a great job.
Yeah.
I mean, for somebody who needs to play like the straight man to everyone else's just out there characters.
Yeah.
Because everyone else had a explosive something except for Anne and Wentworth.
Yeah. And even Anne had her eccentric moments, but I think that's more just
Well,
because
it's her story.
Yeah. She's the point of view character. We get to kind of see her run the emotional gamut, but yeah, it's true. Everyone but the two of them is. Well, I mean, not everyone. I mean, Louisa is pretty down to earth, but a lot of characters are just kind of nuts in this story. So yeah.
I'm sorry. Did you just say Louisa is very down to earth? Concussion joke.
Down to earth at high velocity at one point. Yes.
And but here's my thing though. Louisa is very, very much a just like, I'm in love. I've spoken to him, but she at least had the decency to say like, I'm falling in love,
right.
And this is what's happening, but. Also,
she was young and impulsive, but also enough in touch with her feelings to actually communicate them. So thumbs up for that,
That's something that's nice.
Yeah. And yeah, doing the whole like
is it the utensils thing?
Yeah, it was like her own version of like some kind of like female historic pickup artist. She has all these like weird tricks to like, oh, here's how you flirt with men. You ask them dumb questions so they get to explain stuff. And I was sitting there theorizing, I wonder after she had the concussion if she actually did forget how to use a fork.
Oh,
wouldn't that be
boo.
But yeah, so speaking of, okay, so she was I by the way lost the thread of this plot element where, okay, so there was she and Wentworth were kind of,
which she
Louisa and Wentworth were exhibiting attraction to each other, and then midway through the story Anne finds out that they got engaged, although apparently that wasn't actually the case. And I kind of wanted to go back, and like the confusion was around like they were just referring to him as the captain and it was actually another captain.
Yes.
So all she heard was like Louisa and the captain got engaged.
It's all the gossip, Louisa and her captain.
Right. I mean, that made sense for the most part, but I was wondering if Lady Russell, did she actually say that, or was she confused, or did she know and not say anything, or...
It's also possible Lady Russell heard it and made the same leap as well.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, because like Lady Russell came to Anne and told her like, oh yeah,
maybe you should pursue hot cousin Elliot because of the engagement.
Right. So,
I don't think
so it's possible she shared the confusion.
Right. And I don't think that she would blatantly steer her the wrong way in that instance as well. So and I think when I first read the plot of Persuasion, it was Lady Russell who did the full on just like, no, you should not do this according to the synopsis. I mean,
right.
Overall, the family's just like, ew, God, no, rank, no.
Yeah, but it was like, hey.
No man of consequence.
And Lady Russell was like trying to talk to Anne as a friend and saying like, hey, look, I know you're infatuated with this guy, but if you marry him, you're going to have a hard life. You're not going to have any money. You're going to wish you.
Yeah.
So.
Again, have not read the book.
Right.
So I'm not going to apologize for having all of my translations through Wikipedia, the internet, and social media.
And before we move on from that, I just wanted to talk about that captain, Captain Bennick.
Okay.
Wasn't with a silent W?
Yeah, it was again subtitles, and I'm just like, is it Bennick or Benwick?
It's Benwick if you're
reading it
if you're
out
an
loud.
uncouth American. I was going to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, Captain Bennick is the. I mean, for a while, I was. I didn't really expect this to happen, just because it would be like so against formula. But like they were kind of teasing for a little while that Bennick and Anne were hitting it off, because like it was clear that things weren't going to work out with Wentworth, and he was kind of interested in Louisa, but
find a second love.
Yeah, why not?
Learn to love again.
Yeah, exactly. Because she and Bennick are both very literary, and they talked about like books and poetry together, and then that kind of fizzled out. And then we find out much later that he's fallen in love with Louisa off screen. So cool, but yeah.
I don't know if it fizzled out per se, but it's just circumstances made it so he went one way and she went another.
Right, because they were like kind of hanging out at the same vacation spot down on the coast, and
also she
went home eventually.
So it was a different captain who asked Anne to...
There are 3 captains.
Yes.
Wentworth, Bennick, and Harville.
Harville. I was going to say Captain Henry.
Who's on first? Okay.
Henry.
Henry's on first?
I don't know. Say the name again.
Henry?
No.
Bennick?
Captain?
Harville.
Captain Harville convinces...
Harville, Wentworth, Bennick. And the admiral's name is Croft. Okay.
I was going to say Ashcroft. Stop saying names. He's Admiral Croft, not Admiral Captain Ashcroft.
And Musgrove is
the
Mary's husband.
Charles,
Yeah, Charles
Mary. Okay.
Croft and Musgrove and Harville and Bennick and sorry. Okay. Please continue. You were going to talk about Harville, right?
Harville asks Anne to speak with Bennick.
Right.
Because his heart's broken. And
Bennick.
Harville's sister was engaged to Bennick.
Right.
And she died.
Yeah. That's right. He was semi-recently bereaved. And
mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Harville was like, not even playing matchmaker necessarily, but it's like, oh, hey, Bennick's kind of lonely. Maybe you could go talk to him kind of thing. So,
yeah. Well, also there's this implication that the story of Anne is well known as he kind of takes a glance at Wentworth. And it's just like, oh, I understand you're very literary. Can you talk to him, please?
Mm-hmm.
I can, talk about sailing with him, but,
right.
Help me. But that's a nice almost brother-in-law.
Yeah, Harville seemed like a cool dude.
I can't remember names anymore.
Yeah, what was his deal? I assume he was like
married.
He had a wife back home.
No.
We never saw her on screen, did we?
No, we did.
Oh, was she like the really pale-looking woman?
She was.
Or was that?
That was all of them.
Oh no, that was the Hayter family. The one with fewer than 5 servants, I think.
Yes.
Okay, I'm so.
But we never saw that mother.
Didn't we? I don't care anymore. Okay, so I don't think we're even talking about a speaking part at this point.
No, she spoke a lot, actually. They were at the table.
Mrs. Harville?
Yes.
I'm so confused.
Okay. They're at the table.
We should probably get off the subject.
No, I will finish this.
Okay.
They're at the table.
Mm-hmm.
Wentworth is talking about, I don't know if I want to sign up for more things, and I can't ask this of a wife. The tax that wives pay, and the woman's just like, easy to pay. And she has her arms around Captain Harville.
There was a lot to remember. Okay. Yes, she was on screen. Okay, I remember now.
Yes, and also when Louisa fell, and they're just like, no, we can't keep her here longer than you have to. She's like, no, she will stay here as long as she needs to recuperate. That's her.
That was the Harville house?
Yeah.
I thought that was the Hayter house. Who are the Hayters?
The Hayters are who Henrietta marries into. You see,
I thought it was their house they were staying at, though.
I don't think so.
Because they had fewer than 5 servants and married him like that.
No, he brought that up to get her to say, like, oh, I thought you didn't want to stay with servants, because he's basically like, I understand what you're doing right now. Can you please leave?
Okay. I need to see this movie at least 3 more times, clearly.
You don't have to if you don't want to.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
How about I just read the Wikipedia article?
That might confuse you. Because make sure you read the right one. Because there's lots of versions. Okay. That was a lot of nitpicking at details, but not so much that we didn't like the movie per se.
Oh yeah, no, it was fine. We talked about Dakota Johnson's performance. I
don't think I did, but it was fine. It was fun.
No,
I enjoyed it.
I mean, when we watched it, we talked about it.
Oh,
yeah.
That does not help people.
Sorry. Okay, fine. We should continue to talk about Dakota Johnson's performance because, I thought she did a really good job kind of balancing the, characters she interacted with the other characters versus the characters she was kind of interacting with the audience as a narrator. Mm-hmm. I was making quips about, like, I always kind of wanted to see her in something good because I'm not sure what else I've seen her in besides when we went to go watch comedians make fun of the 50 Shades of Grey franchise. Mm-hmm. And I just remember coming out of that saying like, I couldn't hear any of the dialogue over all of the riffing and laughter, but when I felt it in my head, that didn't seem like such a bad story actually. And then later I find out like what they were actually saying, like, oh, this movie's dumb. So yes, I always had this sense in my head of like, she seems talented and I want to see her in something better. And now I have, so.
There you go.
Yeah.
As for the parts of the podcast that, we have to hit.
Yes.
I enjoyed this because it was was it a falling back in love movie? It's a second chance, opportunity, which I think is really nice and a nice change of pace.
Yeah.
In terms of like the usual love origin stories that we cover.
And it does raise the question, is this a deeper love? Is it like, I mean, we see it only in brief flashbacks, but like this original engagement, like, was it an infatuation? How much do they really know each other?
Let me try this for you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that they ever stop loving each other?
No, I don't think so.
You really think that they carried a torch for each other for 8 years?
Well, they certainly said they did.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
well, okay, yes.
He talks about it enough.
But you know what? I've heard so many versions of "I've loved you since the first moment I met you." I'm like, I just saw the story, dude. You did not love her the moment you met her.
To be fair, that's not what they were saying. It's
no, other movies.
I've loved you since we first agreed to be married, which was, we never got any signals that it was an especially short courtship.
Okay. Yeah, again, we have a lot to not work with here.
Yeah. And okay, well, what we do have to work with is that we get a lot of Anne's narration about how she, it's been 8 years since they parted ways, and she talks about how she still thinks about him and still remembers all the stuff about him, and it, maybe, like you could call it unrealistic, I guess, but at least like kind of within the logic of the story, it paints a pretty vivid picture of like she kind of knew him and loved him as a complete person. It wasn't just like, oh, he was so handsome, or oh, I was swept up in this romantic dream. It's like, no, she misses his personality. She misses, the connection with him.
And
she feels like really like palpably lonely is kind of what I got from it.
And she had an offer from a perfectly lovely gentleman, as far as we can tell. Although I know we're...
Did that happen on screen? Wait, which gentleman? There was like 50 dudes in this movie.
He married Mary.
Oh, yeah, right, because he wanted her first, right?
Yeah, yes. So, I mean, there is that. And obviously she didn't get swept up. And if so, I mean, if she was young and stupid, she was continuously young and stupid for a while. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I guess maybe if you hold on to, I lost my love, that could really say like, no one else will ever be wonderful.
And when you say young and stupid, like to have broken it off with him, or...
No. If you're saying if she was young and stupid in their original relationship.
Oh, yeah.
And just the like, oh, this is love. I can see someone being stupid enough to just get swept up again and swept up again.
Oh, yeah, exactly. But to the point that she didn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in fact, she thought she was doing something prudent by breaking off the romance. I mean, she did it on the advice of this, this older kind of surrogate mother figure, Lady Russell. And it's like, I know you think you want this, but the mature, intelligent thing to do would be to find a better suitor. And she's like, well, I don't want to break up with him, but if I really should, then okay. Mm-hmm. And hence the title of the Persuasion.
And she speaks so adamantly now.
Yeah.
And I think it's because now she knows it's just like, oh, why did I do that?
So she's 27 when the story takes place, and she was 19 when they broke up. So as a 27-year-old, she does not feel any ambiguity about that being the wrong choice. And even speaking as she's narrating about Lady Russell, she says like, she's always given me really good advice with one mm-hmm. with one big exception. So
right.
She's made up her mind that was a mistake. She's not doubting that at all.
And even Lady Russell, she's like, you're mad at me. She's like, I'm mad at myself, mm-hmm. which I think it's both.
Yeah.
But I think she's forgiven Lady Russell, but she hasn't forgiven herself.
Well put. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Again, it's just a lot of just yammering on about how much she loves him, but she's just so awkward around him. How is this not the perfect modern rom-com of gravy falling on her face and drinking a lot of wine?
Oh, and dressing herself up in an impromptu sailor costume and forgetting she's wearing a jam mustache.
It's happened to all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Except it's happened
twice. It happened to you twice this week. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't want to talk about it. Alrighty.
So yeah, I mean, is that the question? Like, is when they fell in love, like, have they always been in love, or since they? Yeah. I mean, I think the evidence is there. I think this is more about like having a chance to meet each other and basically just sort of doing the dance of like, are you so mad that you don't want to get back together? I don't know. Are you, and a lot.
Let's be friends. That's what I wanted too.
Yeah, you could hear the word friend zone hanging in the air, and whatever screenwriter decided not to actually put that word in the script probably made a solid choice there. But yeah, it was
I
definitely
hate that word.
we're worse than exes, we're friends. So that was the dialogue.
I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to say it louder. I hate that word.
Yeah, no, I do not approve of the sentiment behind the term friend zone, but you could definitely tell she's like, oh, we're friends now, hooray! You know, since I guess it's different when you've already broken up, but but yeah, I think I made the observation that when we were talking about the movie Fire Island, which was based on the plot of Pride and Prejudice, I said that I feel like the point of these Jane Austen novels is they're kind of like an emotional puzzle box, and like when you ask when did they fall in love, it's like kind of the entire story, like everything built to that. But yeah, I think Persuasion is interesting because it's really not even a story about falling in love. It's about reaffirming love, or like,
letting it go stronger.
Yeah. Or even, just sort of like confirming your hope that it will indeed work out.
And throwing more circumstances on there that shows, yes, this will go well, despite the fact that all of this nonsense just happened.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm just saying. That's
yes.
Yeah. Cool. Now then, what happens next?
I again don't want to retread too much old ground, but I feel like with the setting, like, is there any possible answer besides like they raise lots of children and earn money by owning land and
what are you talking about? He's a captain. He works for a living.
Owning water. By shipping. Did a naval war happen in his lifetime? Does he have to like? I don't know. Yeah.
Something involving France?
Something. Yeah. Does he go to war with France?
No, I thought it already happened. That's why.
Oh, so they're at peace now?
I don't know. I'm not a history person.
I don't know the economics of being a rich captain. I only know how to be a rich landlord in 19th century London. So would she be at home by herself a lot?
No.
Just like Mrs. What's-Her-Face? Or because he...
Do you remember Admiral Croft's wife, her now sister-in-law?
Right.
She travels with him.
Right.
And they spoke about that.
Yeah.
All the adventures. And when they were sitting at that table...
Is that something you can only do when you're an admiral?
He's on his way. That was the point.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because if you're a captain, you're in charge of one ship. If you're an admiral, you're in charge of a bunch of ships, and I guess that means you don't have to be on any one ship longer than you want to be. I don't know exactly how it works, or worked back then, for that matter.
Well, considering I know exactly less than you do about the topic, I'm going to say, if he's the captain, I'm sure the captain's wife can also be on the ship, because it's his ship.
Isn't that bad luck? I don't know.
I can see why that would be considered, but wasn't that just a means to keep women from doing anything on a boat?
Yes. I don't know.
So specifically, it's bad luck to have the captain's wife on the boat? I mean, it's definitely giving more leverage for, a mutiny.
Okay.
What is bad luck that you said?
I don't know. I was trying to formulate a something taste of the captain's daughter joke. I don't know.
Ew.
Which is allegedly a euphemism for the whip. It's not a literal woman, or that might be one of those myths. I don't know.
So wait, the captain's daughter gets to whip the men?
Yeah, I think that's how they got so into S&M back then.
I knew she was perfect for this role.
Oh, we brought it back to. Dang it! I was not going to go for those cheap jokes either.
That's why I'm here.
Yay.
Alrighty, so
do you know what happens after? Because I'm just like, she's happily married.
I'm going to speculate what I think happens next.
What I meant.
She becomes a captain's wife, and she's gonna have kids with the captain. I know there are 3 captains, but I'm referring to Wentworth.
That's a good start for a happy ending. Not sneaking off to. I knew she was connected to Bennick. She just couldn't stay away.
She's going to have kids with the captain.
Luis is going to be pissed.
I think he's going to have a naval career for a little while longer. They're going to have adventures together. Yes, they'll settle down and have children. Lots of children. Not lots of children. I'm going to say 3 children.
Right, because he is rich enough to retire comfortably, probably. Right, because that was...
He was looking... You know what's weird is that he was ambitious, but he was successful because he even said for a while, he's like, nah, I did it because I was looking for a distraction.
Right.
And he went into dangerous things because he was trying not to think of her anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like all of these things came to him and he got rank and he's famous. And now it's just like, okay, well, I am ready to settle down now, so I don't have to do this anymore. I need a wife, but the wife is willing to come with me on this. So maybe this thing that I'm good at, he doesn't have to be better at. Maybe he can be as good as, he is capable of being, instead of being the guy who risks everything for the sake of just like, well, what do I have to live for?
Yeah. And to throw my 2 cents into the prediction, I think that, if Anne learned anything from the sort of like 8 years apart and not really seeking a husband, I think there's a lot of evidence in the story that she did, perhaps not intentionally, but she kind of compensated for the loneliness in her romantic life by building up, strong relationships with Lady Russell, with Louisa, with some of the, with the women in her life, her
Right.
sisters-in-law and such. Even her relationship with Mary, which is very strained, but, Anne does give a lot to her, clearly cares about her. So
I can see her getting closer to Louisa now because they'll be captains' wives together.
That's true. And so I think if anything, like the sort of 8 years she spent apart from Wentworth had the benefit of preparing her to be a captain's wife, even if she is being left by herself at home. She's not perhaps 19-year-old Anne would have made things a little bit too much about her husband to the exclusion of everything else. And 27-year-old Anne is a little bit older, a little bit wiser, a little bit more content in, looking at like Lady Russell as kind of her role model. And, we learned that she is going off on European vacations and doing things in continental settings with men that probably would, not be, that might be frowned upon in polite society.
I don't understand what you're saying, honey. Why don't you just speak outright and say what she's doing?
Extramarital sex with like European guys.
Why would you put it that way? That's so gross. No, I like that she is, because they, why wouldn't Lady Russell? It's just like, I like my company.
Right.
And yeah.
Oh, she did say that. Yeah. Likes her own company. And Anne does seem to have matured into someone who, despite still wanting to be with Wentworth, is content with her own company and only occasionally has to scream into a pillow. But,
Well, that's only because she wanted him to love her.
Yeah.
And then he did.
And now he does.
Yep. Well, no, he didn't stop, so.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. So, yeah. I think it's good that she had a good influence good influence, bad advice from Lady Russell.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, she can be a good influence on all the other sailor wives who have to go through different circumstances. But yes, children's. And how many kids do you think?
2.
I'm gonna give her 3.
Yeah, 3. Yeah, I mean, like, more is probably more realistic to the setting. I think the number 2 popped into my head just because I was envisioning Anne playing with her 2 little nephews, pretending to be Marie Antoinette. So yeah. So yeah. Also, just kind of slid in there that she has the makings of a very caring mother, despite not really talking about.
Right.
Yeah, she never really talks about wanting kids so much as wanting a husband. But like I said, she's formed a lot of strong relationships among her family. And
I don't think she wanted a husband so much as she wanted Wentworth to be her husband.
That's what I meant. Pretty much, yeah. Because she clearly doesn't. She showed very little interest in anyone else being her husband too. So
right, and she's very quick to point out how much, like, Mary is just like, "Where are your children?" Okay. Yeah, she'll have a good family.
Yes.
She'll have the family she wants finally, considering how much she had a family she didn't want. So okay. I think that's it for me.
Yeah, me too. Thanks again for having me on. This is fun as always. And like I said, not my favorite movie ever, but I think it definitely got a bit of a bum rap with the critics. It needs a higher score on Rotten Tomatoes.
On the critics' Rotten Tomatoes.
On the critics' front. She was like, no, this is like a 65 at least, No.
67 with the audience.
Yeah, that's about what I think it should get. I think the critics were unfairly lowballing it a little bit.
Right, exactly. But again, it's nice to see the eventual Twitter backlash be met with the Twitter like backlash to the backlash, where it's just like, what are you talking about? This is fun. I'm like, oh, people who didn't have such high expectations and, Austen, obsession.
Clearly, we're planting our flag on this side in the discourse. So.
It was fine. It was fun.
Yeah.
Cool.
If you want to ask us about how badly we know about Persuasion, we're on Twitter and Instagram at HEAMCast, HEAMCAST. Facebook is Happily Ever Aftermath, and email is contact@heamcast.com.
And you can find me retweeting HEAMCast on Twitter as well.
Alrighty. Ryan, thank you again.
Yeah, thank you too.
Until next time, may your aftermath be happy.